See. How are you? Oh, we can't hear you. It looks
How
like
about
you.
now?
Yeah. Yes. Hi.
Hi.
So
Hello, Judge. How are you?
Hi there.
so introduce yourself to the audience. Tell the audience who you are, and you're running for Senate in the state of Illinois.
Yeah, so I am Pamela Denise Long. I am running for U.S. Senate in Illinois with all the fun and wild things that are happening in our country. I am looking to bring not just common sense, but maybe competence and character and courage to the work that is required for us to save our nation from so many different things. But I'm looking to replace Dick Durbin, by the way. Tammy Duckworth's election is in 2028, but Dick Durbin is retiring from the U.S. Senate after I think he served 15 terms between the House and the Senate.
So you texted me today and you said it's something you wanted to mention, model legislation to discuss.
Yeah, so it's been intriguing to me to watch the political ads that are out right now. And it seems to me a couple things are happening, and Donald Trump is living rent free in all kinds of people's heads. On one hand, on the Democratic side, you have people whose whole platform is about holding Trump accountable or going against Trump, resisting Trump, I think is the language that they're using, right? And that's their whole shtick. And then on the Republican side, you have people who don't really have policies of their own, but they're attempting to ride the president's coattails. And so while all of that grandstanding, and latching onto Trump is happening, real stuff is bad stuff is happening to Illinoisans. And I think probably people around the country. One, we surpassed New Jersey this summer as the state with the highest property taxes. In Cook County, which is where Chicago is, property taxes went up for several different places, but the predominantly Black areas, it went up almost 20%.
Put a number on that, because there's in New Jersey, some people pay 20,000 to 30, 40,000 annually in taxes, property taxes. So you mean to tell me in the state of Illinois, and that's a Midwest state, people paying between 20 and 40 in property
So
taxes?
here's what it says. It says Cook County rates, which of course includes the city of Chicago, but it also includes several suburbs. Buffalo Grove, I believe Schaumburg, a well-to-do suburb, and the like. And it says Cook County has some of the highest effective property tax rates in the nation, with a median tax bill of $6,349. So half of people pay more than that, half of people pay less. So $6,000 a year is what, $500 a month?
Yes,
So
that's low. Yeah.
Yeah, that 6,000 is on a $335,800 home. Now, in Chicago, you're going to pay more than that, especially to live in certain parts of it. So yeah, and it's increasing by 20% though in the South and Southwest burbs, which are significantly populated by Black folks.
In Chicago, they're paying probably, before the 20% increase, what, 10,000 a year?
Hard to say, because it depends on which area you're in as well. As to the home values and the like. So this data from the Cook County Treasurer's Office dated November 17th, 2025, says that the median residential tax bill on the city rose 16.7% to $4,000. Now, keep in mind, though, you have baked into that some people who own their homes, but they live directly in more depressed areas, right? So if you're living in an up and coming, more affluent area, yes, your bill is very much competitive with what you just mentioned with Jersey, which is like.
So it may not be the number, but the percentage, because again, New Jersey, you're starting with 10,000. And that could be in an urban area of Newark. And I think Newark now is 15, between 10 and 15. 10 is a low end. So, okay. So then if you are next to New Jersey as far as equaling out with property taxes or surpassing it, that means you're over 10,000.
Yeah, so I don't know that it is. I'm sure it is the effective property tax rate.
Right. But either way, I say
Either way.
that's a problem.
Either way, people are leaving because of the taxes overall. They're fleeing. I have a map here somewhere that talks about the every county and what percentage they're losing every year and how many people have fled every year. People reach out to me all the time and they're like, I love my home state, but I cannot afford to live there. So,
because the property taxes could end up being more than what you pay in your mortgage, so
I just heard that example the other day, which is, how does that work? How do you pay more to the government than you paid to own the house to begin with? And first of all, like the idea that you have to keep paying property taxes, whether you own it or not, is a lot to me. Like if you've spent 40 years working and you're, 75, whatever, why, and the government can come take your house because you don't pay property tax, you didn't pay your property tax bill off the very little income maybe that you do have. And even if you do have significant wealth, why are we continuing to tax you on something that, you need somewhere to live, So
what is the legislation?
Yeah, so I've had a lot of people in the community over the years talk about heirs property. So there's already some heirs property legislation that sort of, addresses some of the issues that have happened. Heirs property, of course, is property that upon the death of the person who owns it, there's not a verifiable, if you will and or a clean title, so to speak. So there's, and I know the judge can speak to this, but there's some debate about what's going to happen to it. And so a lot of people get preyed upon by speculators and just really unsavory characters get shoehorned into a will, for example, and then the family, even if they are in good relationship, are out. There are ways in which people go door to door, especially in New York. You've seen these people losing these brownstones. Somebody go door to door. People are strapped for cash. They find out you're delinquent on something. They come and make you an offer that's well below market value. It addresses that. It addresses the idea of one fractional heir forcing a sale at less than market value. And I think the idea, though, is to identify people who've made an institution of this, who've made it part of their business scheme to prey on people who are desperate, and to hold those folks accountable. So that's the bigger part of it, is the enforcement part of it, so that states and the Department of Justice and the like are specifically called in to this and activated in order to monitor it at the state level and have some funding around getting it done, the monitoring and enforcement of bad actors. So.
And I want to ask you a question. How is the campaign trail coming along with your campaign?
Yeah, so the election is March 17th. And so we are just about a month before Election Day. I was on CBS Chicago's morning show the other day, got a great reception from that. ABC 7 in Chicago presented a 2-minute statement that I had pre-recorded. I had a debate at the University of Chicago. I've been quoted on the front page of several newspapers. One of my op-eds was posted downstate. So we have a great media reception, and people are finding me online and liking what they're hearing. Donations are rolling in. And I think people are starting to take it seriously now that we only have a month left, right? People get under a little bit of pressure and then they start to pay attention. And so I'm getting a great reception out of urban Chicago as well. well, Black folks who are fed up, as well as downstate. So it's going well. I think there's much more to come, and some really great things are in the works to push out the vote, to get out the vote, to get people registered, because a lot of folks, Republican and Democrat actually, are really fed up and they feel like their voice doesn't matter. So we're getting people registered, getting people activated, and it's going well.
Well, let's go to Chicago real quick. I want to. It's not pop culture. This is actually Chicago politics with this damn mayor. So this came out today. Let me just play a clip.
Well, the real Chicagoans that I talk to, that I communicate with, mostly Black and brown, actually, tell me that you don't seem to know the difference between illegal aliens and real Chicago citizens. They feel that you are siding with the illegal aliens over them in their communities. And
Okay.
sadly...
William, let's get to the question.
Let's get to the question. The real question is simply this. I don't know how to make it any more direct. An illegal alien from Nicaragua grabbed a woman on the north side
Is
last
the question?
week, bashed her head into the sidewalk, knocked her unconscious, and raped her. If that had been your wife, Stacey...
Okay, all right, we're not going to answer that. Thank you. Thanks, William.
All right.
Would you want ICE to deport her?
All right.
To deport that
Let's move on.
Yes or no?
Let's move on.
Yeah. So actually, this is not new. I remember when this came out, but they're retweeting this now.
They should. They need to rehash it, because that is a very strange position for somebody to take who is over the third largest city in the United States.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And there was an incident, Megan Boss, I talked about her in my video about Dakara Thompson, another young lady, Laken Riley, of course, and a couple of other young women who were killed by illegal aliens in Chicago. It needs to be rehashed, and people need to really think about these decision makers who are ruling these sanctuary states and sanctuary cities. Really need to think about the impact of what they're doing. And I don't know why Brandon Johnson feels so committed to this, because Chicago is a home rule city, so they don't have to accept illegal aliens, even though the state doesn't participate in, through a Republican governor of all things, the state of Illinois doesn't participate in helping immigration enforcement. But Chicago doesn't have to, it didn't have to accept all these people, but they did it anyway. So I'm curious to know what was promised, or, not to imply too much, but why do that? What was supposed to be the benefit to the city when folks reported, who were Chicagoans and human service providers, that many of their resources were being diverted to illegal aliens? So I think he's going to have a very hard time when it comes to election time. In addition to that, what he's done with the reparations task force, people are having some questions about as well, because I'm sure you saw the clip where he said what he said about Clarence Thomas, where the question was posed, about, have you heard the Clarence Thomas's concurrence that laid out case law for programs that were benefiting legacy Black Americans particularly? And he said something about how he finds it hard to believe that Clarence Thomas has ever done anything to benefit Black people. Therefore, he ain't looked at it. And it's like, okay, so you're going to be mad at Thomas and not looked at the gift that he gave, or you going to be focused on the mission and do the thing? So, yeah, he's going to have a hard time, really so.
And on top of that, let me just say this. And on top of that, he added 20% on the property taxes for Chicago homeowners because of the billions of dollars that was spent on illegal migrants that put that city in a deficit.
Yeah, that's definitely how it's looking to people. And this whole thing that they did with these parking meters, the whole parking thing that they sold. We went to lunch one day after a campaign event, and it was like $55 for me to park for 2 hours.
Oh,
Do me a favor.
Yes, sir.
When Al Qaeda, ISIS, and Hamas strike Chicago, the ones that have been let in the country with no inspection, not vetted, with the illegals, don't let him forget what he said.
Well, hopefully it won't get to that.
It's going to. It's inevitable. All of the intelligence predictions are saying it's going to happen, but the news media is ignoring that because it differs from their narrative. But don't let them forget this.
Never. I don't. Yeah, they won't. It'll live forever. And that's the other thing. It's, why serve? What are they serving? What's the master that they are serving when it
Well,
comes to this?
if I might offer a little info, the Census Bureau says that Illinois, New York, California, etc., are going to lose at least 6 congressional seats by 2030 due to the flight from those states because of the oppressive tax, employment, and living circumstances that citizens are saying, hey, I don't want to put up with them anymore. So perhaps the illegals are brought in so that they can maintain the current level of congressional representation.
Well, and see, that goes back to this it's connected to this idea that, many Western countries aren't birthing enough children to replace themselves. And so population stabilization had been in the works since the 80s when they did that Workforce 2000 report under Reagan. So, but then it becomes, how do you attract people to come to your state? How does Ron DeSantis make it happen, right? How does Texas make it happen? Why not replicate that rather than not only endangering your own citizens, but also changing the culture and dynamic of the United States overall? Chicago is a significant cultural center, right? So what happens in Chicago happens to the rest of us because not everybody's going to stay in Chicago. They're going to go to other places too.
Well, how about this? In Texas, I'm told it takes 2 weeks to 2 months to set up the operation for a franchised food establishment. In California, it takes 2.5 to 3 years to do the same thing. So why go to California? You see,
Right.
Same thing with Illinois. It's like your conditions are oppressive to that kind of thing because you have a social agenda.
Yeah. Well, there you go.
And by the way, one other thing too, please pay attention to this matter of censorship. I got cut off earlier today, and I've had this happen one time in life, but I was in a foreign country and it said on this gray screen, it says your video services are being restricted for the next 2 hours because you are basically causing an unpleasantness or discomfort to some people who might be listening. And I think we were commenting on AOC versus
No, it was Hillary. It was Hillary Clinton.
Hillary Clinton versus
Mark Rubio.
yes, but I
I don't know. You were talking. I wasn't on the screen.
I was talking.
You were going in, and I didn't hear what you were saying, but I was looking at your expressions, even though I was off camera. Next thing I know, you fell off, and you couldn't get back on. So
I had to change
go back and edit and upload that clip. But I'm curious to hear exactly what you were saying about it.
I had to go through 3 Wi-Fi systems in order to get back on.
Wow.
The last time that happened was I was in Switzerland and I got cut off for 2 hours because I was texting to my wife at the time some details about the airport, and they came on and said it was a security problem, so I would be restricted.
Well,
so you can't even screenshot the thing because all you get is a black screen. It just won't screenshot. So that's happening in America with that kind of censorship.
To your point, because this is election season, there are certain things that are going on, whether it's X or YouTube, depending on who you're talking about, especially if you're a Democrat. They're going to try and suppress it, like certain names. Even with the Bad Bunny, they were really kind of suppressing, some of that content, commentary, Jasmine Crockett's, and so forth. So, there is some interference when you talk about censorship. Have you experienced any type of intentional censorship while you're on the campaign trail?
Yeah. So if we're not talking social media, I know for a while my campaign account, I got at least 3 times I got a notice from X that, my account had been flagged for something. And then I added Elon the last time. I doubt that he saw it. But anyway, I did add him and be like, what happened to free speech or whatever? And I hadn't said or done anything. It was just kind of strange. And I don't know if people were pushing back. But in terms of censorship for me, yeah, there are some ways in which at least one person has been particularly aggrieved by, upset by my support for reparations, even though I'm not running on it, because as I've told the community, the legislature that we have is not going to sign. I don't believe they'll sign a law for it. And if they do that, that would be fantastic. But I don't think they're going to do that right now. But that doesn't make it wrong, right? I think people who've been harmed have a First Amendment right. It's not even, I think, our framers felt that when the government has wronged you, you have a First Amendment right to air your grievance with government and receive redress. And as a matter of fact, I believe that the Americans' first call to action is in part restorative. Our country has placed profit over us. It's placed foreign investment and foreign interests over us. It's placed businesses over us. So Americans First is an acknowledgement of that. And more than just an acknowledgement, it's also a call to get it right, to course correct. But so there are some people who've been particularly triggered by the fact that I support reparations, even though I'm not running on it. And in that, they miss the rest of my platform, which they like the other 99% of my platform that they absolutely support because it makes sense. And I've been talking about those things for a while. So, but I think, even somebody going so far as to take my flyer and put a red X over my face and post it online and then have me, people come by and attack me and stuff like that, but online. And I think now that we're close to the election and people have seen all the people who are running, including some people who have plenty of money, they're also seeing that I am the candidate who's able to cross over. You're in a blue state like Illinois, and under these current political circumstances, you need someone who has a crossover appeal and who can handle media. So with a media savvy who understands the issues and solutions and can speak to it without needing a prompt or a teleprompter and just really, So I'm seeing that people are seeing that I'm that candidate. I'm seeing that in the donations that we're getting. I'm seeing that in the people who are reaching out to me because it's bigger than any one person's feelings about reparations. It's not like I'm going to go to Washington, D.C. and suddenly every Negro in America is going to get a check, right? Like that's not how that works. So the idea that you're so bothered by it, that you would want to disrupt the campaign when even by your own measure, everyone else running is not meeting expectation. I think that's a little selfish and short-sighted.
I wanted to stay on the reparations thing because I think I briefly text this to you because in the state of Illinois, I mentioned the city Evanston, Illinois, launched their first U.S. municipal reparations program in 2021, $25,000 to eligible Black residents for housing, home improvements, or as direct cash payments to address historical discriminatory housing policies, i.e. redlining, between 1990 and 1969. The program has distributed over $6 million in hundreds of residents and descendants. Key details: the eligibility to qualify, individuals must be Black residents of Evanston who lived there between 1919 and 1969 or their direct descendants. It provides $25 per recipient, primarily aimed at restoring housing, mortgage assistance, down payments, home repairs. And the initial fund is funded 3% on a tax recreational marijuana sales and local area real estate transfer tax. Mm-hmm. And as early as 2026, the city has issued payments to over 100 residents and continues to process in applications. The program has faced lawsuits claiming it is discriminatory. And I do want to bring it up because Judicial Watch, a conservative watchdog group, went on Fox Digital and said it filed a lawsuit against Evanston, Illinois, to stop the city from paying Black residents reparations. They're, quote, saying there's a right way and a wrong way to do them. So reparations are to repair. And so we have provided in this country reparations in the past when somebody has been wronged by government and we try to make that person whole. This is by Michael Bakisha, as senior attorney at Judicial Watch. The reparation program that you're seeing around the country that are being talked about aren't that. They are just entirely giving money, usually to Black residents, solely on the basis of race. And I mean, that's just problematic. So I wanted to get your thoughts on Illinois, the Evanston, Illinois.
Yeah, so as I understand the Evanston, Illinois program, and I'm not expert on the details because I haven't read their whole process and minutes and how they screen and who's received and all of that kind of stuff. But as I understand it, it's based upon injury. So the idea is if you lived in Evanston during that time, and you experience some kind of harm related to real estate discrimination, housing discrimination, then you can apply for it.
Excuse me, ladies, for that entire discourse, both of you were frozen and there was no sound coming through at all.
Oh, okay.
Not one word, and you were frozen.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because I saw you went out, and then I'm like, okay.
But I didn't go out. I was doing this.
Oh, I was reading something, so I didn't see you. Sorry about that.
I mean, you were out. There was no sound, no video. Well, the video was frozen. So the last I heard was you just started in.
So she's asking me about the reparations program in Evanston, the housing.
I heard that.
Oh, okay.
That I heard. And by the way, a suggestion on the legal side. I'm not giving you legal advice because I don't practice anymore. But all you have to do to make it a perfectly legit program, not just legit, but one that'll survive legal attack, is just take black out of it. Obviously, black folk are going to be the ones most impacted by this redlining. Just take that out of it.
Right.
And when people show how they got redlined, guess who's going to be the likely type of person that gets advantage of this? This thing has been going on a long time where you have to put this label on there, and there are ways around it. We dealt with that.
Why do they keep putting black? Why do they keep putting black?
Well, for a few reasons. One, for a few reasons. One, because the people who are the class of inclusion are the descendants of the affected person. The other is they are attempting to show as I call it, an unbroken chain of harm, right, from the injury to present day. And Clarence Thomas's concurrence, as well as the conservative justices, didn't not say black. They talked about it. And what they say, though, is it's not based on race. It's based on the injury that you experienced. And by your experiencing the injury, you do have to specify the class of inclusion. And so he mentioned Black Americans all the time in the case law that he laid out. So I think people are trying to just make sure that we don't have another $5 Indian type situation, or, somebody who's been living in the nation as white or whatever for the last 100 years coming forth and hopping in line when they haven't endured the rest of the stuff. So that's my thought on why they did it that way. I do, however, have some questions about, I haven't read again who has been included in their history and stuff. So I don't know.
Well, yeah, just take that term black out, and you got a good law. It's remedial for people who have a certain circumstances. I just briefly, I helped draft one of the first affirmative action programs in the country back in 1966, 67 at UCLA. And we discussed this at great length. And it was, we can describe what the condition is we want to remedy without putting the term black in, because when you put the black in, you're going to run up with what we thought of as oppositional discrimination. Reverse discrimination became the term, and you've seen this go down. It lapsed from, it was effective until, I won't get into it, some black medical students at the University of California in Berkeley worked up a deal with Bakke and the faculty to set it up the way they do now. When Justice Roberts wrote that opinion 3 years ago on affirmative action, it read almost exactly like Black students and Hispanic students were putting in place along with Asian students to set up affirmative action. So if you leave the terminology out of it and describe the condition that needs to be remedied, you are on all fours, and it's not against white people. It's just people who were subject to this, irrespective of who you are, they get the benefit.
And it saves the trouble of dealing with someone who's trying to file a lawsuit to counter what you're doing. So it's why run into problems, when you could avoid it. But so I wanted to bring it up because that is in your state, and this is the first. This is the first Evanston where they're giving.
Well, I think the other part that they're doing there is attempting to redress a specific harm, right?
And
Native Americans, to a specific people. And so the harm it's still harms based, I think is what they're testing in effect. It's still harms based, even though you're addressing a racial harm that happened and you know what I mean? And your class of inclusion is racially specific. But it's really like, it's a class inclusion, right? For people. So it's interesting to me how feels like everybody else can have specific programs, but the legacy Black Americans seem to be, everybody demands that we pull everybody along with us, right? Like Native Americans are exempt from this SNAP work requirements, right? And why?
That's because Article 6 of the Constitution says that treaties are part of the supreme law of the land. And we have executed a number of treaties that impact Native Americans because they are part of what was viewed as a sovereign entity, meaning the tribes.
And so then the question becomes too, when most of them fought for the Confederacy, those treaties were also negated, right? And so I'm not trying to take anything away necessarily. All I'm saying is if the people who made the nation's wealth what it is can't get special dispensation, because Native Americans weren't developing the currency of the United States in the way that it is now. So if they can get special dispensation, why can't descendants of U.S. slaves who made the wealth, who made the country's money wealthy, get special dispensations without people getting all triggered about it?
Well, the difference in a raw fashion very quickly is this. The position of Black Americans is quite similar to the horse and to the ox. They were domestic animals that got put to work. The position of the Native American was they took scalps and nailed them to the lodge pole, and they were very dangerous and they were very lethal adversaries. So to cut down on the death, destruction, and physical resistance to the expansion of the republic, you had treaties with them. So that's the difference. They name trains and places after Native Americans, and other than Booker T. Washington School and Martin Luther King Boulevard, there's not much that Black folk have in the mix.
Yeah, except the culture is very much an outcropping or child, if you will, of Black culture. And the other thing here is, you were talking about treaties and something came to mind for me. Oh, they are required to provide the Native American freedmen with the same benefits as the tribes do, but they haven't gotten it. Maxine Waters was challenging them on that years ago, and they're slowly starting to do it. But who's even monitoring that at this point, right? So they kicked all these Black folks out of the tribal connection and came up with this whole, blood quantum and all these other criteria, one of which is that you have to be connected to a tribe, but they kicked you out of the tribes, right? And so you're generations from connectivity. So that needs to be redressed as well. So yeah, there are a lot of things that need to be looked at.
Depends on the tribe. You have Choctaw, Chickasaw, Cherokee, Creek,
But no one should be kicked out of any tribe.
So the point is, it depends on what those tribes are. Those 5 tribes were known as the civilized tribes because they had a dictionary and written language.
But it seemed like even within those tribes, and it all of them could be guilty of kicking out certain people.
But see, Article 6.
Let me just say this, but it seems like the natives, they practice white supremacy or racism or discrimination within their tribes.
Well, it may be, but see, Article 6 of the Constitution specifically says there are 3 elements to the supreme law of the land: the Constitution itself, which includes the amendments, laws passed by Congress to implement the Constitution, not just the administrative laws. And the third one is such treaties as have been ratified by the Senate. They're right up there with the Constitution in terms of the supreme law of the land. So these treaties that are amongst the various Native American tribes are not all universally the same.
Right.
So it depends on what the individual circumstances are. Now,
Right, but my point is, with them having violated their treaties and negated them, just like the Confederacy, because most Native American tribes joined the Confederacy in their fight against the Union. A condition of any treaties with them being reinvigorated was that they honor and provide access to the freedmen, equal access to tribal benefits to the freedmen, and those responsible for that have not fully done that. As a matter of fact, I forget the brother's name who just sued down in Oklahoma and won his lawsuit. DeMario, I think is his first name, had to sue in order to get access. So, treaties are both parties need to honor. Parties need to honor the treaty. Is my.
But see, it's a matter of enforcement. There are tribal courts, tribal laws, and to an extent, if the treaty reads the wrong way, then it's going to be left up to them. It's kind of like, okay, Canada discriminates against a class. You can't come down from Canada to the United States into an American U.S. court and get relief in Canada. That's up to Canada. But the U.S. can cut off foreign assistance, aid, or benefits to Canada for not honoring what their laws are relative to their interactions with their Native Americans. By the way, we have treaties with Canada and the tribes in question about their free access across the border. They aren't held to ordinary standards if they're active members of certain tribes. So those are matters that have complexities that are not easily resolvable. So some of them are diplomacy matters and some of them are courtroom type matters.
Right.
Well, thank you, Pamela.
But it's a good point. I mean, it's valid issue.
No, thank you. I appreciate that.
I appreciate you coming on. Are you going to come back on beginning of March before the election?
Yes, let's do that. I'd be happy.
Because you've been booked and busy.
I have been, and that's a good problem.
Yeah,
especially when name recognition is the name of the game. So we're getting out here doing all the things, and we can talk about my coming back on. I appreciate the conversation. I appreciate the legal advice, or not legal advice, but the legal analysis and insight.
I'm being a law professor here, not an attorney.
The legal education. But listen, I want everyone to go to her website, www.longforsenate2026.com. Support. If you live in the state of Illinois, vote. And if you don't, donate. So it's all about money when you're running for office. So,
and you're probably 2 degrees of separation for someone in Illinois. So tell a friend, because they probably know somebody in Illinois. For sure.
I stayed on 71st and Constance back 1971, 72 when I was doing an intern thing between there and D.C. Oh. An old man lived there for a while, and I've got relatives who were born in Illinois. So, it's a cool place.
So
used to be anyway.
I love it. And I love Chicago. It's my favorite city. Every time I see the skyline, it brings a smile to my face.
Right. Yeah. And it should, I haven't been, but I do plan on going in the spring or summer. So,
that's real. Spring starts around May, though. Just be aware.
Okay. Damn. Okay. Well, I'll be there. But thank you so much. Definitely going to have you back on. And I really appreciate you taking the time out coming on the show today.
Thank you. Take care, y'all.
All right.